Howdy, I'm Chris Klein, Director of Butterfly Ridge Butterfly Conservation Center here in Southeast Ohio. Um, First off, I wanted to apologize because this video's going to be getting out a few days later than what I normally do. And while everything at Butterfly Ridge is running great, some things in our non-Butterfly Ridge lives have been kind of stressful here lately, and it's kind of put us behind the eight ball on a few things, but hopefully health conditions will improve and things will settle down at school and that sort of thing, and we can kind of get back into our routine here. For today's topic, we're going to change things up a little bit. In that a friend of mine on Facebook, Patty, she had asked that I explain to somebody the relationship between the proposed wall on the southern border and wildlife. And I have no interest in going political on folks here. We're just going to talk wildlife management a little bit, okay? That's all we're talking about. I guess one of the things that has kind of really put this in the news, besides just the wall itself being sort of controversial, is the fact that the wall's actually going right through the middle of the National Butterfly Center in Mission, Texas, which is a very cool place. If you've never been there, I really strongly suggest you go, especially beginning part of November, like the first half of November. There's some really, really cool butterflies there. And so, you know, what I've been hearing is, oh, well, just can't butterflies just fly over the wall, you know? And unfortunately, it's not quite as easy as that. And yeah, some butterflies, you know, monarchs and swallowtails, yeah, I mean, flying over a 30-foot tall wall is not really any big deal, okay? But not all butterflies are monarchs and swallowtails. And there are some butterflies that we have here in central Ohio, for example, in southeast Ohio. Some of the tiny little grass skippers, for pretty much their entire adult lives, they don't fly more than about 6 feet off the ground, okay? And so a wall type structure like that for those butterflies would actually create considerable problem, okay, considerable barrier for them. But you know, there's another aspect of the wall, and I don't think a lot of people really realize that this is a part of it, and that is, first off, where the proposed wall is going in southern Texas is not right on the border, okay? There's a levee that runs next to the Rio Grande River that basically serves as a protective barrier in case the Rio Grande would ever flood. You know, places like the National Butterfly Center, you know, their visitor center there, that levee helps protect their visitor center from flooding if the Rio Grande would flood. That is where the wall is proposed to go. And in places, that levee is as much as 2 miles away from the actual river. Okay, from the actual border between the United States and Mexico. Excuse me. And so what a lot of folks don't realize is actually a couple things. Number one, on the back side of the wall, on the side of the wall towards the river, there is scheduled to be what's called a 150-foot enforcement zone. So basically, the idea is they'll basically totally, what's the word, devegetate? Is that a word? They're going to totally clear all of the vegetation 150 feet from the wall towards the river, so that, of course, you know, so the Border Patrol can see, you know, the bad guys trying to cross to get up over the wall, okay? And then also that same area, that enforcement zone, is supposed to be lit up at night, okay, with large I don't know what kind of lights they are. I would assume they're fairly comparable to like a high-powered mercury vapor light, something like that. And so that area, when you consider between the sun and the high-powered lighting, that area is going to basically be lit up 24/7. And so herein lies another issue as far as wildlife management in that area is going to concern, in that bare 150-foot enforcement zone, that means there's no cover there for wildlife. And in wildlife's mind, if there's no cover, that means there's no safety. Okay? And so from the backside of the wall, okay, wildlife won't even attempt to approach the wall. Okay? Because, once again, because there is no cover in that area. No way to be protected as you're moving from place to place. And then, of course, with everything being lit up at night, that's going to be another discouragement. I mean, not only does it discourage bad guys, it also discourages the wildlife, possibly even as small as butterflies, okay, from crossing that area to go up and over the wall. And then, of course, on the Texas side of the wall, okay, what that wall does is that prevents access to a very important water source for the wildlife that's on the Texas side of the wall. And and I think a lot of folks don't understand how much wildlife moves over the course of their day, over the course of the season, that sort of thing. Once upon a time, let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, we had a dog that showed up at our place here at Butterfly Ridge. This was years ago, before this became Butterfly Ridge. And he was a little beagle. We creatively named him Pup, okay? And since he had shown up on his own and decided he wanted to hang out with us, then we didn't do anything necessarily to try to make sure he stayed. He could come and go as he wanted to. And probably much to the dislike of our other dog, Pebbles, who was sort of a kind of a Godzilla dog, who we had to keep on her chain in the backyard because, I mean, she would eat people if she was able to run loose. But Pup wasn't that way. And so once again, Pup just shows up one day. He can come and go as he wants. And sometimes when we would be coming home from work, we would see Pup up in Guytown, which is about 3 miles away from here. What he was doing in Guytown, I have no idea. Okay, I don't know if he had a girlfriend there or if he was, milking 2 families for double suppers. I don't know. But the fact remains is here this little beagle dog, for whatever reason, was potentially traveling, one way 3 miles a day at least, for whatever reason. And so keep in mind, wildlife does the same thing. I mean, wildlife will travel several miles to get to a water source or to get to an especially favorite food source, something like that. So putting that barrier in the way of accessing that water source is problematic from the wildlife's perspective. And once again, speaking just very strictly about butterflies, realize a lot of the butterflies that the National Butterfly Center gets, they actually move up from Mexico into South Texas, okay? And for some of those species that tend to not fly very high off the ground, a large concrete structure like the wall, that could be problematic. Now, much like this person that Patty knows, and I assume there's possibly some of you folks with a similar attitude who might be watching me now, that person's response is, oh, we should just change our lives and our national security for the deer and the coyotes and everything. Well, let me just point out, everything that we do to wildlife, Okay, everything that we do to insects, everything that we do to butterflies, that we do to bees, that we do to dragonflies, that we do to birds, realize we're doing all that stuff to ourselves as well. Okay, and if we're doing things that will harm the bees and the birds and the butterflies, realize there's a chance in the long run it may harm us as well. For example, take some of the herbicides that we now spray on our food. Okay, and research I've read indicates that those of you who have trouble with gluten, you may have Roundup herbicide to thank for that. Because here in Ohio, when the wheat, when those grains are all filled out and they're nice and big and full and plump, the farmers, rather than waiting for that wheat to just die down naturally, they go through and hit it with Roundup so that they can harvest a little bit faster. They don't have to worry about rain beating that wheat down and causing it to mold and that sort of thing. Well, now research is showing that knocking down the wheat with the Roundup so it can be harvested faster could actually be causing people trouble as far as gluten goes. So once again, what we do to all these other things, eventually we're doing it to ourselves as well. And so, just something to think about. Like I said, Patty had asked me to explain to somebody kind of how that whole wildlife management thing works in relationship to the wall. So I thought we would use that as our Landscaping for Life video this week as well. One item of housekeeping, if you will. I don't know if any of you are looking for a summer job, or maybe you have a college student in your home that's looking for a summer job. But right now it looks like Butterfly Ridge will be hiring 2 people to work for us during the summer. Roughly, we're flexible on start and end dates, but it goes roughly May 1st to August 15 in that neighborhood. And so if you check out our Facebook page, check out our website, which is www.butterfly-ridge.com. We've got information on there as far as how to apply for those jobs. We like to think of ourselves as fairly easygoing, flexible people to work with. And I think most of our past employees would confirm that, but there is one thing that we are not flexible on, and that is the application process to work for us. So make sure you follow those instructions as far as that process to apply for our jobs. And so next week, we'll move away from walls and that kind of thing and get more into landscaping techniques in your own home landscape to help encourage life in your own home landscape. And until then, stay warm, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.